The moment is still vivid when my phone buzzed and a notification appeared on the screen. It was a message from Alex, my husband of a decade, containing words that shattered my entire reality. "I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. From now on, all communication will go through my lawyer." That was it. A cold, calculated decision delivered via text, devoid of apologies or explanations. At first, I thought it was a cruel joke. My fingers trembled as I stared at the screen, perplexed. Alex was supposed to be at work. At least, that's what I believed. There weren't any signs, no late-night arguments, no indication he had checked out of our marriage. We weren't perfect, but I believed we were secure. Why end it like this? I attempted to call him, no answer. I texted back, no response. Confusion gave way to panic, then anger. A decade of marriage, and this was how it concluded. A message, with not even the decency to face me. I took a deep breath, urging myself to maintain composure. Perhaps he was undergoing something unexpected, or maybe this was an error. But something about his words was unsettling. Immediately cutting communication and directing me to his lawyer wasn't just cold, it felt premeditated. My instincts told me there was more to this. So, I phoned his lawyer. The line rang twice before a deep, polished voice greeted me. "This is David Green. How can I assist you?" I cleared my throat, attempting to steady my voice. "David, it's Kelly. Alex just texted me saying he wants a divorce. You're his lawyer, right?" There was an unsettling pause, far too long, making my skin prickle. Then he exhaled sharply, as if realizing something had gone awry. "Mrs. Carter," he stated, his tone now laced with tension, "are you confirming Alex has already filed for divorce?" A chill ran down my spine. Why was he asking me this? Shouldn't he already know? I swallowed hard. "I don't know if he's filed yet. All I got was a text saying it's over and that communication should go through you." Another pause. Then suddenly the lawyer's voice rose, frantic and panicked. "God damn it, Alex, you fool," he shouted, not at me, but at someone in the background. I heard the rustling of papers, a chair scraping the floor. Something was terribly wrong. As he spoke again, his voice was low, rushed, and urgent. "Listen carefully, Kelly. Have you signed anything, any documents?" I shook my head, though he couldn't see me. "No, nothing. Just the text." "Good. Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, and for the love of God, don't communicate with Alex." My pulse raced in my ears. "What's happening?" I demanded. "Why are you shouting?" A door slammed on the other end, followed by muffled voices. Then David's voice lowered, speaking quickly. "Kelly, I'm not supposed to reveal this, but your husband has been keeping secrets. Huge secrets. If he finalizes the divorce before you're aware, he keeps everything." "Know what?" My throat felt dry. "What do you mean?" David sighed heavily. "I need to go, but here's the thing. Alex messed up significantly, and if he texted you before I could complete everything, there's a chance for you to secure what you're owed." "What am I owed?" I pressed, but the line went dead. I stared at the phone, disbelief washing over me. I had expected typical legal formalities, perhaps a detached explanation from a lawyer, but instead, I encountered panic, fear, secrets. My marriage wasn't merely over. It was a deception, and I had to uncover what Alex had hidden before it was too late. My fingers clenched around the phone, the lawyer's words echoing. "Your husband has been keeping secrets. If he divorces you before you know, he retains everything." I reread Alex's text. It felt different now, less like a cold farewell and more like a meticulously planned maneuver. A decade had been spent building a life with this man, and within minutes, it felt like I was confronting a stranger. Instinct screamed at me to call him, demand answers, but David had warned against that. Instead, I needed information. I paced the living room, mind racing. I revisited the past few months, searching for anything unusual I might have missed. Alex worked in finance, managing investments, and while he'd always been secretive, I had never given money much thought until now. Had Alex been concealing something all along? I needed to speak with someone who might have answers. I browsed through my contacts and hesitated before calling the one person who might have some insight. Lisa. Lisa had worked as Alex's assistant for years, essentially managing his office. We weren't particularly close, but she had always been kind to me and was well acquainted with Alex's work patterns. The phone rang once, twice, then she picked up. "Kelly," she said, sounding surprised. "Hey Lisa, sorry for calling you out of the blue, but have you spoken to Alex today?" I asked. There was a brief pause. No, not really. Is everything all right?" Her voice betrayed concern. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "He texted me, saying he wants a divorce out of nowhere. All communications now go through his lawyer," I confessed. Lisa inhaled sharply. "Oh," she gasped. "That wasn't the reaction I was expecting." "You knew, didn't you?" I pressed. There was silence, then finally, I had a feeling something was off. "He's been behaving oddly for weeks," she admitted. My stomach churned. "Odd how?" I inquired.
"Secretive," she confessed.
"Unscheduled meetings. He started sending large wire transfers to an account I didn't recognize, and last week," she hesitated. "What happened last week?" I prompted. "I overheard him talking to someone. I don't know who, but he said, 'Once she signs, it's all mine. She won't even know what she lost.'" I felt a cold rush of realization wash over me. This wasn't just a divorce. Alex was trying to eliminate me from something significant. With urgency, I hung up and headed straight to Alex's home office. Despite most of his work being online, he always kept physical files in a locked drawer. I knew the code. Kneeling down, I punched in the numbers, and the drawer clicked open. A stack of organized financial statements, legal documents, and bank records lay inside. My hands trembled as I sifted through them. Then I saw it, a statement for a bank account I didn't recognize. $8.6 million. I blinked, convinced I was reading it wrong. $8.6 million, solely in Alex's name. I flipped through more pages, feeling my pulse surge. Alex had been funneling assets into this account for over a year. Now, he wanted me to sign divorce papers, unaware of his financial maneuvering. The realization of David's initial panic hit me. He knew. He thought I knew too, but I hadn't until now. But now, I understood David's apprehension when I called. He realized I was entitled to half, and Alex likely told him I was out of the loop, oblivious, and compliant. But I wasn't anymore. I refused to let Alex get away with it. I took out my phone, not to call Alex, but rather David. This time, I demanded answers. I stared at the bank statement clasped in my trembling hands. $8.6 million. A fortune I was completely oblivious to until this discovery. Alex had been meticulously transferring money to ensure I was left with nothing. My outrage wasn't about the money itself, but the betrayal. We had built a life, a marriage I believed was genuine while I worked, loved, and supported him. He plotted his departure. Jaw clenched, I dialed David Green again. I wouldn't allow evasion this time. The line rang once, and he answered. "Kelly?" His voice was tense. "David." I replied, my tone icy. "You insisted I sign nothing and avoid speaking with Alex. You panicked during our last conversation. Now I understand why." There was silence, then he sighed heavily. "You found it, didn't you?" My grip on the phone tightened. "The secret account?" "Oh, I found it. I suspect there's more. So start explaining, David." "Kelly, you need to listen." "No, you listen," I retorted. Alex tried to execute this covertly. He thought I'd overlook it, leaving me with zilch. "Now I recognize the truth, and you, David, you knew all along." He muttered a curse under his breath. "Fine," he conceded. "Here's the truth. Alex has been preparing for this divorce over a year. He's been reallocating assets, transferring money overseas, setting up legal barriers to inhibit you from accessing any of it." My fury bubbled over. "Why?" I demanded. "Why not honesty instead of driving a knife into my back?" David was aware of the obstacles. He sighed, suspecting I would challenge him and emerge victorious, given my rightful claim to half. With a bitter tone, I deduced that his intention was to prolong the legal battle in hopes that I would get fatigued and settle for a minor compensation. David paused. That was the strategy, he confirmed. Anger bubbled inside me as he continued grimly. He plans to assert that the money is solely his, earned without your contribution, leaving you with no claim. My stomach churned at this deceit. David's silence spoke volumes. I exhaled sharply, forcing myself to strategize. Alex assumed victory, believing he had outmaneuvered me. But now, the balance of power shifted. David, I said cautiously, why are you, his attorney, divulging this to me? David chuckled dryly. Because your husband is a fool. His words were unexpected. Alex ignores advice, David elaborated. I cautioned him about the legality issues, warned him that discovery would backfire, but he felt untouchable, assuming you'd just weep and sign away. He forgot who he married, David sighed. A smirk formed despite myself. That's where he made his fatal error. I remarked quietly. David hesitated. Kelly, if you play your cards right, you could entirely devastate him. My grip on the phone tightened. Tell me more, I pressed. You possess something beyond wealth, David stated. Proof. Bank statements, transfers, hidden assets, if presented to the court, will expose his lies. Alex risks not only losing the wealth, but facing legal repercussions for financial fraud. Fraud. The word lingered heavily. I had been primed for an asset dispute, but this surpassed those expectations. Determination surfaced along with a calculated smile. My past affection for Alex was gone after his actions. This time, my approach for justice would be relentless. Deep inhale, decision made. I wasn't just defending my rights. I was intent on obliterating him. Phone hung up, pulse rapid. David's confirmation etched my fears in stone. Alex's betrayal was meticulously premeditated, over a year of deceit. Money transfers, legal traps, system manipulation, intending to leave me with nothing, assuming I wouldn't retaliate nor uncover his deceit. But I knew everything now and refused defeat. At Alex's office, documents sprawled before me. My hands trembled. Evidence of bank transfers, offshore accounts, an undisclosed $8.6 million fortune. More than financial betrayal, fraud. Strategizing my next move was crucial. Alex discovering these documents would prompt him to erase traces. I documented everything. Photos preserved in email, secure cloud storage, and sent to Lisa, Alex's assistant. Lisa, who had alerted me about his dubious conduct, might not grasp the betrayal's depth, but was trustworthy. Accompanying the files was a message. Lisa, keep these safe. If ever, contact David Green. Her swift reply, Kelly, what is this? Did Alex stash this much wealth? Verified. Now justice awaited. Paused, her assurance. I'm here for whatever you need. Exhaled gradually. War preparations underway. Alex stayed at his company's penthouse, dodging me, confident I'd be too desolate from divorce papers to retaliate. Miscalculation on his part. Armed with bank statements, they tucked into my purse as I drove to the penthouse. Once there, the doorman recognized me, granting access without a pause. Alex awaited a rude awakening. Elevator ascended, heart raced. At the door, knocking was omitted. The key card he neglected would grant entrance. The second I walked inside, I noticed Alex lounging on the couch, drink in hand, as calm as if he hadn't attempted to destroy my life. His eyes narrowed in annoyance when he saw me. Kelly, he grumbled, placing his glass down. What are you doing here? Approaching him, I tossed a pile of bank statements on the table. He glanced at them, a whiter shade overtaking his face. Where did you get these? I crossed my arms. Did you really believe I wouldn't find out? He forced a laugh. Kelly, you don't get it. Oh, I understand completely, I interrupted. While I was a faithful wife, you were siphoning millions into an account solely in your name. You thought you could file for divorce and leave me with nothing. His jaw tightened. This is none of your concern. I laughed, devoid of humor. None of my business? We're married, Alex. Legally, half of everything is mine. His expression darkened. Not if I can prove the money was solely mine. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. And what do you think a judge will say when they see these? I tapped the papers. Transfers during our marriage, secret accounts. Legally, you should have shared. He looked enraged. You have no proof that. I have plenty. I cut him off. And more importantly, I added with a smile, I have David. Fear flickered in his eyes. David wouldn't dare. Oh, he did. I smirked. Your lawyer told me everything. Your lies, your strategy to drag this out in court. Alex's hands formed fists. That idiot. He knows you've messed up and that I have a right to everything you tried to hide. For a moment, he was silent, merely staring. Then he sneered. You think you've won. His voice was low, menacing. This isn't over, Kelly. I picked up the papers, stepping towards the door. You're right, I said calmly. It's only beginning. I turned and walked away, leaving Alex to the chaos he created. The morning after, I headed to David Green's office. Kelly, David sighed, looking up. I knew you'd return. I placed a folder full of evidence on his desk. You told me I could ruin him, I said. Let's ensure it happens. David glanced at the documents, brows furrowing. You've been busy, he muttered. I'm efficient. He exhaled, closing the folder. Alex isn't just at risk of losing funds. He could face fraud charges. I nodded. David continued. If we go to court, it's not just 50%. Hiding assets means he might owe you more. I smiled. Good. David warned, Alex is desperate. He won't back down easily. Neither will I replied. That afternoon, we filed legal action against Alex, not just for divorce, but for fraud and financial misconduct. It wasn't long before the news reached him. An unknown number flashed on my phone. You're insane. Alex's voice was furious over the speaker. Hi, honey, I smirked. Miss me? You went to court? Are you crazy? I leaned back. You wanted it done legally, so I made it formal. His voice shook. You have no idea what you're doing. Oh, I do, Alex, I said, my tone icy. I'm claiming what's mine. Silence followed. Then he unexpectedly laughed, dark and bitter. You think you've won. Is this just a game to you? I tilted my head. No, Alex, it's justice. 2 weeks later found us in the courtroom. Alex had secured a lawyer, someone who was smooth with an air of arrogance, believing he would win easily. But that presumption crumbled as soon as the judge examined the bank records, noting the transfers and concealed accounts. Mr. Carter, the judge addressed Alex sharply. Why did you fail to reveal these assets during the divorce process? Alex hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. Those funds were from before we married, he mumbled. David stepped in confidently. Your Honor, these transactions began just a year ago, within the period of marriage, which makes them shared assets. My client deserves half. The judge agreed with a nod. I glanced at Alex, whose complexion turned ghostly, his jaw tightened so severely, I feared it might shatter. Realization dawned on him. He was losing. David's decisive blow followed. Your Honor, in light of the deliberate concealment of assets, we request punitive damages. Alex's lawyer protested. Objection. But the judge cut him off decisively. Objection denied. Turning to Alex, the judge continued, considering the evidence, I am poised to rule in Mrs. Carter's favor. Not only will she receive half of all assets, but due to the attempted fraud, she is also entitled to an additional financial settlement. Alex clenched his fists, awareness settling in that he was about to lose everything, more than just half due to his own avarice. I stood victorious, finally the one who outplayed the game. As court adjourned, I collected my belongings, hearing footsteps approaching. Kelly, Alex called, sounding hoarse. I faced him, noting the hollowness in his eyes, a man who recognized his defeat. Don't do this, he murmured. You've got what you wanted. I paused, then leaned close to whisper. No, Alex, you got what you deserved. His expression twisted as I walked away, leaving him permanently behind. Exiting the courthouse, I felt lifted by the freedom from 10 years of betrayal. Alex exited, a crushed man, The judge's decision devastated him. I not only acquired half of everything, but also more due to the fraud charges tipping the scales, granting me a considerable settlement. Meanwhile, Alex faced ruin. Soon, his downfall became public. Rumors quickly spread. In his world of high finance, losing equated to weakness. I heard from Lisa, who still worked at his firm, that his business plummeted, investors withdrew, and clients lost trust, leading his empire to crumble. He struggled to maintain a facade, but without hidden reserves and wealth, he floundered further. The final blow? He had to sell his penthouse, the very place he arrogantly dismissed me, convinced he was in control, now lost. Through Lisa, I also learned Alex had maintained a mistress throughout, who vanished once his wealth disappeared, craving luxuries that vanished when I left the picture. In time, he was a disgraced fraud, abandoned and alone. Poetic justice indeed. My own life transformed for the better. I purchased my dream home, not a flashy penthouse, but a peaceful haven. Free from deceit, doubt, and betrayal, I reclaimed my life, happiness burgeoning anew. One morning, momentarily distracted while sipping coffee on my porch, I received a text from Alex. A brief hesitation captured me before I opened it. "Alex, can we talk?" it read. I couldn't help but chuckle. Where was this desire to talk when he ended our marriage via text, or when he schemed against me all year? Resisting the urge to engage, I typed briefly, "No need. I've already said everything I needed. Have a good life, Alex." And with unyielding resolve, I blocked his number permanently.